They never think it will happen. Narcissists move through life believing love is an unlimited resource, a renewable battery they can drain without consequence. They think affection is something they can take, discard, reclaim, and remake at will. They think people will always come back because they always have. But every narcissist reaches a moment they are psychologically unprepared for, the moment the person who loved them more deeply than anyone else suddenly stops. Stops forgiving. Stops explaining. Stops absorbing their chaos. Stops waiting for the potential that will never appear. And that moment, that quiet, devastating moment, becomes the breaking point that shatters their entire identity. It never comes with drama. Narcissists expect explosions, screaming, accusations, breakdowns, because that's how they control the narrative. But the breaking point arrives in silence. A silence they didn't plan for. A silence they don't understand. A silence that terrifies them because it's the first sign that their power has evaporated. The silence of someone who once loved them unconditionally now looking at them with clarity instead of longing. That is the moment they feel something they never expected to feel: fear. Because a narcissist truly believes they are unforgettable. They believe no one sees through them. They believe the person who loves them will always remain emotionally chained to them, even after betrayal, even after cruelty, even after manipulation. But then they wake up one day and realize something far worse than rejection. They realize you no longer feel anything. You're not angry. You're not hurt. You're not pleading for change. You're simply done. And for a narcissist, done is a wound deeper than any insult. The narcissist's breaking point begins when the person they once emotionally fed on becomes emotionally independent. They watch you shift from attachment to awareness, from affection to analysis. You start seeing patterns instead of promises. You start recognizing manipulation instead of mistaking it for love. You start noticing the emptiness behind their charm, the hollowness behind their apologies, the darkness behind their demands. You stop trying to fix them and start healing yourself. And that's when the narcissist realizes something they were never built to process. They have destroyed someone who genuinely loved them. You see, narcissists expect to lose acquaintances. They expect to lose friends. They expect to lose people who never mattered deeply. But losing the person who saw the best in them, that's the one thing they are emotionally unequipped to handle. Because that person was their mirror, their validation, their emotional oxygen. Losing you is losing the illusion that they are worthy of love. And that truth is unbearable. Their breaking point begins with confusion. Why aren't you responding the way you used to? Why don't you defend yourself? Why don't you argue? Why don't you care? They poke you with guilt, with memories, with old promises, with false tenderness. But nothing works. And after confusion comes panic. It's the narcissist's silent meltdown, the collapse of the persona they've crafted so carefully. You were supposed to be the one who never left. The one who forgave everything. The one who loved them through every storm. But it's the narcissist who created the hurricane, and for the first time, they have to watch someone walk away from the destruction they caused. That moment, watching you detach, becomes the psychological fracture they cannot hide from. They realize you loved them in a way no one else ever will. You understood them, held them, anchored them, believed in them. And instead of growing from that love, they drained it. Instead of protecting it, they crushed it. Instead of reciprocating, they consumed. And the horrifying truth hits them harder than any punishment. They destroyed the only true love they ever received. A narcissist can live without many things: accountability, humility, responsibility. But they cannot live with the knowledge that they lost the one person who saw their brokenness and still loved them. That is the breaking point. When they realize they didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves they could have become if they hadn't been so afraid of healing. And the worst part? They know it's too late. They know you'll never look at them the same way again. They know someone else will receive the parts of you they took for granted. And they know deep down, you were the one thing in their life that wasn't replaceable. That knowledge haunts them more than loneliness ever could. The breaking point for a narcissist is not when you leave. It's when they finally understand why you did. The breaking point doesn't hit the narcissist when you leave. It hits them when they understand that you're not coming back. And this realization doesn't arrive in one moment. It arrives in waves, each one harsher than the last, each one exposing a piece of reality they spent their whole life running from. They go through phases: denial, anger, confusion, panic. But the deepest phase is the one they never show anyone: collapse. A collapse so silent it almost looks like nothing from the outside, but inside, their entire identity is cracking. It starts with the first small sign that their power is gone. You don't respond with emotion. You don't react to their provocations. You don't rush to comfort them when they act hurt. They test you: a message late at night, a nostalgic line, a picture from the past, a random check-in. But every test falls flat. You answer plainly, neutrally, or not at all. And for someone who feeds on emotional reaction, your neutrality is a blow straight to the ego. Because neutrality means detachment. And detachment means the narcissist is no longer the center of your emotional universe. They can handle hatred. They can handle blaming. They can even handle you crying. That still keeps them powerful. But detachment? That is a death sentence to their illusion. As the days go on, the narcissist starts rewriting history in their mind, desperately searching for the moment it all shifted. They remember the nights you stayed up waiting for them. The times you forgave the unforgivable. The times you believed their promises even when your soul screamed not to. They remember the look in your eyes, that soft, devoted, unconditional look. And the realization hits them with brutal clarity: you don't look at them like that anymore. Something in you has hardened. Something in you has awakened. Something in you has said, enough. The narcissist cannot process this. Not because they miss you, but because losing you feels like an attack on their identity. You were their proof that they were desirable, lovable, superior. You were the emotional mirror they used to hide from their emptiness. Without you, they must face the truth they've avoided for their entire life. They were loved deeply and still chose destruction over growth. That's when the shame begins. Shame they don't know how to name, shame that burns like acid under their skin. They replay every moment they lied to you, every time they dismissed your needs, every insult, every manipulation, every time they made you doubt your own reality. They thought they were in control. They thought you would tolerate it forever because you always had. They didn't realize love has limits, even yours. But instead of taking accountability, the narcissist spirals. They convince themselves you must have replaced them. You must have found someone else. You must have been planning to leave long before you actually did. They cannot comprehend that you left because of them. Not because of someone else, not because of a sudden change, but because you finally saw the truth. And this truth doesn't just bruise their ego, it shatters their entire worldview. The idea that they were the villain in their own love story is unbearable. So they rewrite it. You're ungrateful. You're disloyal. You're cold. You changed. You abandoned them. Anything to avoid looking at the reflection they've been running from their whole life. But even in their denial, something else begins to creep in, a quiet, suffocating awareness that contradicts their narrative. They remember the moments you begged them to communicate. The times you sacrificed your needs to meet theirs. The times you softened your voice so they wouldn't explode. The times you held them through their storms. And suddenly, their new narrative doesn't fit. Because deep down, beneath all their defenses, they know the real reason you left. They broke something sacred. They destroyed the one relationship that could have healed them. They crushed the only love that ever saw their bruised inner child and tried to hold it. This realization doesn't hit all at once. It starts when they hear your name and feel a sharp sting in their chest. It grows when they see someone who looks like you and feel that strange, hollow drop in their stomach. It explodes when they try to bond with someone new, but everything feels empty, artificial, flat. No one laughs like you. No one looks at them the way you did. No one forgives them the way you forgave. No one sees through them the way you did. And suddenly, they feel a kind of loneliness they didn't believe existed. A loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from realizing they destroyed their only real connection. Narcissists aren't afraid of losing people, they lose people all the time. They're afraid of losing the person who made them feel human. Because without that person, they're forced to face the truth. All their relationships before were superficial, transactional, performance-based. But with you? It was different. You broke through their layers. You saw the softest parts they kept hidden. You believed in the version of them they could have been. You offered them the kind of love they had never received, and instead of rising to meet it, they drowned it. Their breaking point becomes undeniable the first time they see you happy without them. Even if it's just a photo, a story, a smile, a casual moment, it hits them with a brutality they cannot express. You healed. You moved forward. You found peace they never gave you. And for someone who depends on your emotional dependency to feel powerful, watching you bloom after their exit is unbearable. It means the problem was never you, it was always them. It means their chaos was never love, it was destruction. It means their wounds are not excuses, they're choices. This truth is where the narcissist finally breaks. Not because you left, but because you left and rebuilt yourself into someone stronger, wiser, calmer, more aware. Someone who can now see exactly how deeply they damaged the one chance they had at genuine connection. They destroyed the person who would have stood by them through anything if only they had chosen healing instead of ego. And as the realization settles, as the mask cracks, as the illusion collapses, the narcissist is left with the one thing they fear more than abandonment, the truth of who they are without the love they destroyed. The final collapse of a narcissist doesn't happen in front of anyone. It happens alone, in silence, when the world stops distracting them and the truth finally has enough room to echo. They can run from accountability, run from memories, run from every person who tries to hold a mirror to their behavior, but they cannot run from the empty space you left behind. That space becomes the stage for their breaking point, the moment their entire identity fractures under weight they can no longer deny. At first, they try to fill the void the way they always do, with attention, validation, temporary affection, new admirers. They chase admiration like oxygen, believing that if enough people want them, it will erase the memory of the one person they truly needed. They flirt harder, charm louder, pretend stronger. They post, they brag, they showcase exaggerated happiness because the performance is all they've ever known. But it doesn't work. Not this time. Every smile feels fake. Every compliment feels hollow. Every new person feels like a bad copy of what they lost. And no matter how hard they try, nothing satisfies the hunger you used to fill without even trying. This is where confusion turns into panic. Because for the first time, they realize something terrifying. They didn't just lose you, they lost the version of themselves they were when they had you. With you, they felt powerful in a way that wasn't performance-based. They felt seen in a way that didn't require manipulation. They felt like the mask could slip without the world crashing down. But instead of nurturing that rare feeling, they mocked it. They pushed you away, tested your limits, drained your love, and expected you to stay anyway. They believed they owned your forgiveness. They believed you would never walk away. But you did. And the narcissist cannot comprehend this kind of loss. Because unlike you, they never truly learned how to grieve. They only learned how to replace. And when replacement fails, when silence grows heavier than they can handle, the truth hits them with a violence they never saw coming. You were not replaceable because you were the only genuine thing in their entire emotional world. Narcissists survive by rewriting reality, but now the narrative slips through their hands. They tell people you were dramatic, sensitive, selfish, but even while they say it, they remember the nights you stayed up comforting them. They claim you changed, but they replay the moments they broke you piece by piece. They insist they're better off without you, yet they check your profile every night, looking for a sign that you're struggling without them. A sign that you miss them. A sign that they still matter. But you don't break. You don't crawl back. You don't feed their illusion. And your silence becomes the punishment no one else could ever deliver. This silence forces them into reflection, the one place they fear more than anything. Suddenly they remember the exact moment you began withdrawing. The night you went quiet instead of crying. The morning your voice had no emotion left. The day you said, okay, instead of arguing. The moment you gave up fighting for something they threw away so carelessly. At the time, they mistook your numbness for forgiveness. Now they realize it was the beginning of the end, The moment they lost the woman who would have loved them unconditionally if they had only treated her like a human being instead of a supply source. And now comes the collapse, the breakdown of the narcissist's emotional architecture. It often strikes at the smallest moment. Hearing a song you played in the car, smelling something that reminds them of you, finding a picture where you were looking at them with love they never deserved. And suddenly, the truth becomes unbearable. They remember how your eyes softened when you talked about the future. They remember your voice when you told them you believed in their potential. They remember the way you held them when they felt weak, something no one else ever did for them without conditions. And for the first time in their life, they feel something that terrifies them more than abandonment. Regret. Not the regret of losing you, the regret of destroying the one love that could have saved them from themselves. This regret grows into a grief so heavy it eats their confidence alive. They replay the moments where they could have chosen kindness, honesty, vulnerability, but instead chose ego. They see themselves clearly for the first time, not as a misunderstood hero, but as the architect of their own heartbreak. They recognize that their manipulation wasn't clever, it was cowardice. Their silence wasn't strength, it was cruelty. Their superiority wasn't real, it was a shield that kept them from receiving the love they secretly craved. And when the narcissist finally understands the depth of what they destroyed, something inside them dies. Something they will never admit to anyone. Something they can never repair. They realize that true love doesn't come back after being destroyed, and that the only person they ever truly connected with is now living a life where they no longer exist. That's the breaking point. Not the day you walked away, but the day they understand why you never came back. This realization haunts them. It follows them from relationship to relationship. Every new person exposes the holes in their character, the flaws you forgave that others won't tolerate. Every failed connection reminds them of the one they sabotaged. They begin to see the pattern. The chaos follows them because it comes from them. And the more they understand this, the deeper the wound grows. They weren't abandoned, they were released. Not rejected, but finally seen. And that truth cuts deeper than any insult, deeper than any heartbreak, deeper than any punishment. Because now they know. You didn't leave because you stopped loving them. You left because you finally started loving yourself. And the moment they understand that, that is the moment even their narcissism cannot protect them anymore.